Hello everybody and welcome back to Gaming on Caffeine. My name is Isaac and we are back for episode 7 of Feed the Beast Infinity Evolved Skyblock. Last episode we set up the Steve Cart's tree farm, set it going to make all of our wood into charcoal and then pump that charcoal into the steam boiler over here, and it has done a surprisingly good job since the end of last episode. This thing is now full on charcoal, and if we look over into the cargo manager, this thing is full on leaves, oak, apple and charcoal as well. It's done a lot better than I thought it would. I thought I'd come back onto the server and it would be stuck under some trees, like it couldn't get any sunlight and it had no fuel, but it seems to be working quite well. The system we have here is that it deposits all of its stuff into the cargo manager, and then the cargo manager puts some of that stuff back here into the coal engine. And so you'll notice that if we look inside the cart, it does have a little bit of wood and a little bit of charcoal in there to keep it going in times like now where there's no sunlight to power the solar panel, and also other stuff that I have done since the end of last episode. I've taken down the massive water wheel frame because there were no longer any water wheels in it. They all set on fire and burned down. I also moved all of my machines, apart from my Industrial Craft 2 ones, over to here, just so that we could provide them with power a little bit easier without having to run cables like this one that goes all the way across the platform over to our Industrial Craft machines. The reason why I didn't move the Industrial Craft machines is because, for those of you who have played with Industrial Craft 2 before, you'll know that if you try and break them without a wrench, they break and you just get the machine frame back, and even if you do move them with a wrench, there is a chance, like a small chance, that they still break and you want to get the machine frame back. And so, until we're a little bit further on in the game where we don't really need these machines, or it's not too big of a deal for us to make more of them, I'm going to leave them here just in case we accidentally break them when trying to move them. But what I want to work on in today's episode is I want to work, first of all, on getting some better machines, on getting some thermal expansion machines. Now, the thermal expansion machines in expert mode are a little bit harder to get because they all require a machine frame, and all of those machine frames require 400,000 redstone flux in an assembly table to make, and to do that, we also need a dense refined iron plate, so a dense steel plate, 2 crushed obsidian, 1 basic circuit board, 1 tin gear, and 1 iron chipset for every single thermal expansion machine that we want to make. And hopefully by the end of today's episode, we'll have maybe 3 or 4 of these machine frames and be able to make a couple of thermal expansion machines, including the redstone furnace, the pulverizer. I think I'm going to make the induction smelter, and then possibly one more. I'm not quite sure yet if we're going to need to make another one. But to start with, the only thing on this list right now that we cannot make is the crushed obsidian, because the crushed obsidian requires a rock crusher, as we mentioned last time. And to make the rock crusher, we need a lot of diamonds, because this thing is a multi-block. It's a 3x2x2, meaning that we need a total of 12 blocks to make this work. And that means making 3 sets of this crafting recipe right here, which means we need 12 diamonds to make the rock crusher, as well as 3 blocks of steel. And so what I also did between this episode and last is a ton more sifting, hammering and all that kind of stuff of gravel to get ourselves a bunch more of these. I also did a lot more smelting of all of my ingots and ores in the smeltery. So now we have an almost full chest of valuable stuff here in the top, including 52 emeralds and 29 diamonds. So if we go ahead and take 12 of those, as well as a little bit of iron and a little bit of redstone, we should be able to fairly easily make ourselves the rock crusher with the pistons and the diamonds. We're also going to need a little bit of wood. Thankfully, the tree farm over here has provided a little bit of wood. It's not producing quite as much as I would like. It's turning most of it into charcoal, which is good because it means that this is going to continue to run pretty much indefinitely. And also, by the way, I added a 3rd steam dynamo to the setup over here, and that's one of the reasons why I'm making a pulverizer, because geez, it takes way too long to grind up a stack of coal in the grindstone in order to make 1 steam dynamo. So that's one of the reasons. But I would kind of like it if it produced a little bit more wood. I might make a few tweaks to try and get a bit more oak out of this, because as you can see, we're getting more than enough charcoal to keep this thing up and running. And speaking of charcoal, actually, we should probably get some more steel up and running as well, because I do know we're going to need a lot of it in today's episode. So let's take 3 of those. Let's grab all that back. Let's turn our oak into planks, and then let's use those planks with the stone and the redstone to make ourselves some pistons. And once we've got ourselves quite a lot of pistons, we need 12 of these in total, we can go ahead and craft all of that stuff up into the rock crusher. Nice, almost. That got us 4 of them. What are we missing? We are missing 1 more block of steel. We can take that, and then we can do this. Nice, there we go. And so the way that you set this up is something like this. I want to keep this area a little bit clear because I have some plans for upgrading our sifting and hammering system right here, because right now this thing isn't working all too well at getting us stuff, as you can see here. It's doing a fairly good job, but right now it's kind of manual. I have to take stuff out of here and put it into there. But in regards to the rock crusher, this thing is simply a 2x2x3, like so, and once you put the final block down, it should form into the rock crusher. Nice. Now, we do have to hook this thing up with some power. I think we should have some coils and some connectors left over in here. There we go. And if we come back over and do the same thing we've done before, we can put one of those on here. One of them is already up there. We can hook this up like so. Boom, boom. And there we go. I kind of like these wires, but at the same time, I'm not a fan of having them go like this all the way across the map. So I'll probably upgrade these into leadstone flux ducts at some point in the future. But this should be receiving power as it is. And now all we need to do is make ourselves quite a bit of obsidian, which thankfully is fairly easy to do. All we need to do is grab some of our lava, stick it into here as we've done multiple times before, and I think we get one crushed obsidian per piece of obsidian in the rock crusher. It's not the fastest machine in the world, but it's not nearly as slow as like the coke oven or the blast furnace over there, so thankfully we get it fairly quickly. So that's how we're going to get our crushed obsidian. As for the other items on the list, most of them are fairly easy. Again, if we go back over to thermal expansion, making ourselves the tin gears, super easy. We just put tin into the smeltery. Making ourselves the iron chipset is some iron and some redstone into the assembly table. We should probably stick a chest on top of that assembly table so that all of the stuff that is crafted in there doesn't automatically just plop out onto the floor and despawn, and instead goes into that chest. So if we put some of those in there, we'll say 3 of each, and we'll make sure it's crafting iron chipsets. Thankfully, now that we have 5 of these, I did also make an extra one of these between episodes, and now we've got 5 of these lasers, and we have 3 of these steam dynamos. You'll see they're all blue, all running at maximum speed, and it should be able to make these chipsets fairly quickly, and it also should be able to make these the machine frames fairly quickly as well later on in today's episode. And then other than that, the only things that we need now are the dense refined iron plates, which is made by compressing up 9 steel plates, and finally the last bit is the basic circuit board. This is made in the carpenter with 6 redstone and 1 tin. I think I said last episode that this would come in useful at some point in the future. This is exactly what I was on about, so we should probably move it, I don't want that there, should probably move it at some point to where it can get automatic water, but for now, if we can kind of just reach into the middle bit here and grab some of that water, which for some reason it's not letting me do. Okay, so I was trying to make a new water source over here so that we could move some of the water into this bit here, because this one is a bit of a pain to try and get water from without removing like the water sources either side, and we don't want this one to actually run out of water, because if the steam boiler doesn't have any water and then you try to put water into it, I'm fairly certain that there are some explosions involved. So we have now accidentally put down some obsidian, which cannot be moved with my pickaxe, at least not without me sitting there for about 5 minutes and destroying the obsidian. So I think what I'm going to do here is upgrade my normal pickaxe with a diamond, which should increase its mining level to obsidian, at which point I'm fairly certain I should be able to break this no problem. Like so, and then all we have to do is stick down our water, try and get one more block from there, stick that back down, and now we can go ahead and quite easily fill up our carpenter over here with water, as well as some tin and some iron. Again, much like with the thermonic fabricator, you put the recipe up here and the items down there. Let's grab some tin from over here. We got a lot of tin, surprisingly, compared to everything else. Stick that in there, stick you in the middle, and that is going to start making us some of these basic circuit boards. Now, I don't want to use all of my redstone, not even anywhere near all of my redstone, so we'll make a few of those. You can see those are very quick and easy to make, and then to make the dense plates, all that we need to do is grab some of our steel, stick that into the metal form, and make sure it's on rolling mode, and if we make 9 of those, that's going to allow us to make our first dense plates. So what I'm going to do now, guys, I'm going to wait for these to all form up into plates. I'm going to crush some more obsidian over in the obsidian crusher. I might make 1 or 2 more of these basic circuit boards in here, and I'll be back in a second. And a little while later, now that we have 2 of these dense refined iron plates, I'm fairly certain that we have enough to make 2 of these basic machine frames. So let's take all of those, let's take all of our obsidian. I've gone ahead and made myself 3 of these tin gears, and so if we grab the 3 iron chipsets in here, I was going to try and make 3, but we actually ran out of steel partway through. We only have 8, and we need 9 in order to make the 3rd dense refined iron plate. So let's put all of these into here like so, and select the machine frame. Like that, and now it's going to start working on making us the machine frame, and the first 2 machines that we're going to make are the pulverizer and the induction furnace. The pulverizer, because as I mentioned earlier, it's going to make my life a lot easier in terms of making more of these steam dynamos, and just in general of pulverizing things down into their dust form, and the induction furnace, because the induction furnace is one of the only machines that allows us to make steel ingots, and we can make it by smelting together iron and some charcoal dust. Now that we've got a nice supply of charcoal over here, and once we get a pulverizer, getting charcoal dust will be super easy, and the benefit of having the induction furnace over the blast furnace over here is that we can actually increase the speed of the induction furnace using augments and make it faster and faster, whereas the blast furnace right now is fairly slow, taking like a minute or so, maybe 2 minutes to make every single one of these ingots, and therefore limiting how much we can progress in the early game. So this machine frame is almost there. Whilst we're waiting for that to finish up, we should look into what we need to actually make the induction furnace and the pulverizer. For the induction furnace, we're going to need 2 Invar gears, 1 redstone reception coil, which I think is golden redstone, it is, as well as some more Invar and a bucket. And then for the pulverizer, it's even easier, some copper gears, some flint, a piston, and a redstone reception coil. So I think we should have enough Invar over here to make that happen. We need 8 to make into gears. We also need 8 copper to make into the copper gears, and then we got the leftover Invar for either side. And then flint's fairly easy. We got a ton of the stuff, way too much of the stuff. Pistons are easy. Gold we have for the redstone reception coils. And so all we need to do now is throw you and you in there. None of those should conflict. We did get a bit of a confliction earlier and ended up with some aluminium brass, but that's not a problem. We can use that in the future to make some more casts. Are you done? The first one is done now, which is cool. Thankfully, now that we have 5 of these, this thing isn't taking all too long. I think it takes just shy of 2 minutes for it to actually finish a full cycle, as long as these lasers are all fully powered. So what I'm going to do now, guys, I'm going to go away. I'm going to get all the stuff we need to make the pulverizer and the induction furnace, and I'll be back in a second. And again, a little while later, now that the second one of these machine frames is done, we can come over to our crafting table. I think we should have everything we need to make our pulverizer and to make ourselves an induction smelter. Nice. We are going to need to make ourselves another bucket, so let me quickly throw some iron into the metal form, and we can craft that up in a second. And let's throw both of these machines down. We're going to throw one on this side like that, and one on the other side like so, just so they can get the power from these leadstone flux ducts. And now, like I said, we can start to put some charcoal into the pulverizer, turning it into charcoal dust, and then we can start putting that charcoal dust with some iron into the induction smelter. I got this the wrong way around there. Into the induction smelter to actually start making it into some steel. Now, it's not going to be extremely fast, especially to start with here, with no upgrades whatsoever. It's probably going to be fairly slow, about as slow as the machines over here. Is that outputting to somewhere? It is. We want to turn off the outputs on this for now. Let's make sure it's not going anywhere. I want it all to stay within the pulverizer for the time being. Let's get you out of there. And if we throw the iron and the pulverized charcoal into here, it should start to smelt up into some steel. Now, actually, looking at that, I think it's definitely a lot faster than this guy over here. This thing takes minutes to actually make a piece of steel. Look how fast this bar goes up. And then come over here, let's compare it to how fast this bar goes up. This one is already done and deposited the refined iron into there. Again, we want to make sure that all of the outputs are turned off, like so. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go away, guys. I need to get myself at least 24 steel ingots to do what I want to do next. So I'm going to go away. I'm going to smelt up a bunch of steel or refined iron. Refined iron and steel, by the way, both work in the same way. I believe if we go over to our crafting table here, we could, if we wanted to, do something like this, make ourselves a block of steel, then turn it all back into steel, and it all becomes the same steel. So refined iron and steel are both interchangeable. But to be, yeah, and that gives us a different kind of steel from before. Wow, that's brilliant. But there we go. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go away. I'm going to get some more steel, and I'll be back in a second. And now that we've got a bunch more steel, we can move into the second half of today's episode. And what I want to do is I want to work, as I mentioned earlier, on upgrading the system that we have here of automatically hammering and sifting all of our cobblestone into gravel, and then therefore into diamonds, iron, and all that kind of stuff. Because right now I do a lot of hammering and sifting manually in this oak sieve and with the compressed stone hammers, and I don't want to do that. I want to automate the process, and so that we can move on to other stuff without me spending like hours doing a bunch of hammering and sifting off camera. And to do that, we're going to make ourselves the auto compressed hammer and the auto heavy sieve. The auto compressed hammer allows us to turn compressed cobblestone directly into gravel using a hammer, because right now we have to turn normal cobblestone. Compressed cobblestone does not work. If we put it in there, we can't put it in there, it just doesn't work. And then the auto heavy sieve does a very similar thing. It will allow you to sift heavy versions or compressed versions of gravel, sand, and dust instead of having to do the individual versions. Right now, if I tried to put any compressed gravel, sand, or dust into this sieve, it will not work. It will only accept non-compressed versions, and so using the compressed versions is going to make it a lot faster. And we're also going to use some of these auto compressors to automate the process a little bit. So the first thing we're going to make is this guy over here, the auto compressor. This is going to allow us to turn our cobblestone that we're getting from our cobblestone generator and turn it directly into compressed cobblestone without having to compress it manually. It's a little bit expensive. It requires 4 crafting tables, 4 iron, and a block of iron, but thankfully we do have quite a bit of iron in this chest over here. I say quite a bit. Every time I say that, we have less and less every time, and I do spend a lot of time making the iron between episodes. But let's go ahead and grab 2 of those, because I think we're going to need 2 of these auto compressors for the setup that I'm going to make, and then we're going to need at least 8 of these, and then we can go boom, boom, and grab ourselves 2 auto compressors. Nice. The next thing on the list is the automatic compressed hammer. This is the most expensive bit. It requires a compressed diamond hammer, which is 9 of these normal diamond hammers, which means 18 diamonds in total, as well as a bunch of sticks. Again, thankfully, we have quite a lot of diamonds stacked up in here. We've got 16 in here, and I believe at least 2 more over here. We do good stuff. In fact, I should probably put some of the gravel into here to get that sifting up again, just in case we need some more diamonds for later on in this episode. And then we go over here. Let's grab some of our oak, craft that up into some sticks, and we should be fairly easily able to make ourselves the compressed diamond hammer, although it is going to cost us a fair bit to do so. We can go boom, boom, diamonds up here, and diamonds there. That gets us 9 of those, and then we can craft all these up like this to get ourselves the compressed diamond hammer. Nice. Now, all we need after that is 6 steel and 2 weighted pressure plates. Thankfully, weighted pressure plates are super easy to do, and thanks to our induction smelter, we now have a bunch of refined iron as well, which we can then use to make ourselves an auto-compressed hammer. Nice. And now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set these up to begin with here. We might, in fact, or we definitely, in fact, are going to need some more of those transfer pipes, and once we've got those, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set them up here. So what I want is I want the auto compressor, this guy over here, to be right about there. So I want all the cobblestone to go up, round, and into the auto compressor. It should start to pump that up any second now. This is the furthest one away, and so I think this will be the last result. Like, it'll try and fill up the barrel first, then it'll try putting stuff in the crucible, then it should start to put stuff, as it is doing now, into the compressor, at which point we're going to use a hopper to take the compressed cobblestone from the auto compressor down and across into the auto hammer like this, and then we're going to have the auto hammer turn that compressed cobblestone down into gravel, at which point it has to come down again, go back into the auto compressor to turn the normal gravel that we get from the hammer into compressed gravel, at which point we're going to have that compressed gravel again come down via a hopper into a heavy sieve, and then we're going to have another hopper that takes stuff out of the heavy sieve and puts it into a chest. So, right now we are missing at least 4 hoppers, as well as an auto heavy sieve and a chest. So, thankfully the auto heavy sieve is real easy to make. All we need to do is take our normal heavy sieve. I say real easy, it does require quite a bit of steel. Let's go back to X-compress them. To make this guy, we need 2 blocks of steel, 2 steel ingots, any kind of heavy sieve, and 4 glass panes. Thankfully, we do have a little bit of glass cooked up over here, so making some glass panes should be fairly easy. Actually, we might have some glass panes just lying around from previous crafts. We've got 1, that's not really enough, so I'm going to go ahead and make the other 16. Then, all we need to do is make ourselves 2 blocks of steel, which again, we can do by crafting any mixture of all of the steels or refined irons that we have, like so. We can put those there, we can put the ingots at the bottom, we can put the panes around the outside, and we can put the heavy sieve in the middle, and that gets us the auto heavy sieve, which we can then throw down right about here. And now all that we're missing are the hoppers and the chests. So let's go ahead and craft all of our wood here into planks. Let's make at least enough chests for the hoppers. That's 4, I think, and then 1 extra for actually storing all the stuff that we get. Let's turn all of those chests into hoppers, like so. We're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4 of those, and the 5th one is for safekeeping, and then we should just be able to put that there. Get rid of all of these blocks of cobblestone, like so. And then if we put the hoppers down, you want to make sure you shift right click onto the block you want it to go into. So in this case, like so. And then on the last one, like so. And now all we need to do is actually get some power to all of these guys. And to do that, we're going to, of course, use these things over here. So we're going to need some more of these LV wire connectors, as well as some more of the LV wire. And once we've got some more of those, we can take all of them, come back over to our setup, and this should be pretty much the end. If we put this here, not there, we could put it on top, and I'm going to put them on the side just to make it look a little bit nicer, and then we just need to hook all of these up to here. I don't think there's a limit to how many of these you can have hooked up, but if there is, we're about to find out. It doesn't look like there is. This thing, by the way, can only output 200 redstone flux per tick, and so what it might be sensible to do actually is reorganize some of these just a little bit, although it does seem like all of these things are gaining power faster than they're losing them. I'll keep an eye on this, make sure that it is all gaining power, but what I might end up doing is putting another one of these things down right about there, and then using this one to connect up like my Industrial Craft 2 machines, my rock crusher, and then maybe even the hammer back here, because if we have everything turned on at the same time, this top side of the redstone energy cell can only output 200 redstone flux per tick, whereas if all these machines are using more than that, we want to have it on 2 separate sides. But all of this stuff should now be working fairly easily. You can see that should not be the case. Let me quickly turn this off like that. If you just right click with the wrench, you can set it to go straight up and through, because we do not want normal cobblestone getting put into the hopper there. We only want the compressed cobblestone to come down from here and go into the auto hammer there. I can actually put the compressed cobblestone that I have in my inventory in there, and that will then go down into the compressor again, down again, and get sifted up. Again, much like with the other autosieve, you can feed this one some food and it will go much, much faster than it does by default. And now we have an automatic way of sifting all this stuff, and it's much faster than the one we had before because it's all compressed. And finally, one of the last things that I think we're going to need to do is probably upgrade this chest to an iron chest, because right now it doesn't have a whole lot of space in it, and it could probably get pretty full pretty quick. So to do that, we're going to need 8 iron plates and 1 oak plank in the assembly table. That should be fairly easy if we go ahead and put 8 of those in there. We also should be able to make ourselves 1 more machine frame real quick, because I would like to make the redstone furnace as well, because right now we're doing all of our smelting in these slab furnaces over here, and it's fairly slow. I did put that yellorium in before the episode started. We don't really need yellorium, but it was taking up space in its dust form in this large chest down here. So let's go ahead and quickly throw some more charcoal into our pulverizer. Again, thanks to our tree farm, we have a ton of the stuff just kind of lying around. We'll throw you in there. We'll make a little bit more steel. This should be almost nowhere near done. Okay, so a little while later, I've had a slight change of plan. Instead of making an iron chest, what I'm going to try and do is automate the process of taking most of the ore dusts that we have in here, crafting them up into the ore blocks, and then pulverizing them and smelting them into their ingots, so we have a nice automated system that goes all the way from the cobblestone right through to crafting them into the ingots, instead of just taking it to the dust form, because I still have to go ahead and craft these up, hammer them down, and smelt them in the smeltery if I want to get any ingots out of them. It's going to be much easier if we could just automate this all together. And so what I've gone ahead and done is made another auto compressor, and what we're going to do here is we're going to get rid of this piece of cobblestone on the floor, stick it down right about there, craft ourselves 1 more hopper real quick like so, and then we can stick this down exactly as we've done with all the rest of them, like that. Nice. And now that should be taking all of the stuff down and should start compressing it all up in this section over here. I'm fairly certain that everything within this chest, apart from maybe appetite, can be compressed up. And even then, actually, yeah, no, I think everything... Oh no, appetite can be as well. Appetite can be formed into blocks of appetite. So I'm fairly certain that everything in here can be compressed up. X-Compressum adds a special compressed flint block. Coal can be compressed up into blocks of coal. We do, of course, need to provide this thing as well with some power. Let me quickly fill in that hole there real quick with a piece of cobblestone, because otherwise it is going to drive me insane. I can't grab that thing. Oh, this is such a mess to try and get around. That's fine. We'll put that there. We'll stick down another one of these wire connectors, connect it up with, again, another piece of wire. This one will connect to the front, because why not? And that should start to, there we go, nice and quickly, do all of that. And now the next thing I want to do is make the redstone furnace. So I did go ahead and get another machine frame, cook that up, and I'm pretty sure we have everything it takes to make the redstone furnace. And so what we're going to do is we're going to move the induction smelter that we have here. We're also going to move this thermionic fabricator, and we're going to have our pulverizer and our redstone furnace go right about there. So let me pick up this pulverizer. We can put down the induction smelter in its place right about there. I'm not too worried about putting back down the thermionic fabricator just yet, but if we put that there, what we can do now is quickly whip up ourselves another transfer node real quick, and then start sending stuff from the compressor up and around to the pulverizer. So what are we missing for a transfer node? We need a chest, which should be fairly easy, and other than that, I'm fairly certain that we have almost everything that we need. Let's have a look. Boom, and get rid of the redstone, and put the redstone back, and we get ourselves a transfer node. And we're also going to need a transfer node filter, because of course we don't want things like diamond, emeralds, flint, or coal going through it to the pulverizer. We only want the metals going, and much like I did with this transfer node over here, this one has a filter to only pull out charcoal, and we're going to make a filter to only pull out all of the stuff that we can smelt into ingots. And so for that, we're going to need some sticks and some string. Fairly certain that we still have some string lying around from, yeah, we've got loads over here from the silkworms earlier on in the series. Let's go and get 4 of those. Do something like this. Stick the string in the middle and the redstone around the outside. Get to another filter. Let me quickly do a bit of an inventory dump here, because we have way too much stuff in our inventory. And now we need to decide what we're going to actually pull out and what we're not going to pull out. We could do with that hopper being a little bit faster. I don't know if that's going to be an issue in the future, or if it's just going to be an issue because we've got like a nice backlog going here. But let me quickly go ahead, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab 4 of every ingot. I'm going to craft them up into their gravel form, their block gravel form, and stick them into the filter like that, and I'll be back in a second. And a little while later, we have a filter that looks something like this. I think I've got pretty much all of them. There are some that I haven't put on there, of course, like Elorium. I do not believe can be put through here, and even if it can, it's not one of the things that we desperately need, like, very quickly. And so, all we need to do now is get rid of this piece of cobblestone and start pumping this thing around. So let's get rid of all of this. Let's stick down a transfer node right about there, stick the filter on it, make sure coal does not come through, and we are probably going to have to set up another transfer node with another filter for the rest of the items, because otherwise it's going to get backed up with blocks of lapis, apatite, coal, all that kind of stuff, and blocks of flint especially, because that's one of the biggest ones that comes through here, but we should now be able to grab this pipe. I'm hoping that we have enough pipe here. We want to come up and around like this. We want to make sure it doesn't connect to some of these other blocks, which could prove to be a bit harder than it looks. We want that to come across, down, not go into that hopper there, and then obviously go across and into there. This one should be fairly easy because we can just set it to go straight forward like that. But then this one, because it's going into the pulverizer here, might be a little bit harder. And what I might have to do, actually now I'm looking at it, is get rid of this, move this thing up to the top there, hook that back up like that, and then go ahead and make sure that this one connects to nothing, and then come over and craft up another set of pipes. That shouldn't be too hard to do, actually, because we've already got the stone to make the stone slabs, and I'm fairly certain that we already have the glass still over here to fill in the rest. So we'll take two of you, we'll craft that up like that. That gets us the remainder of the pipes, which we can then hook up to over here. I'm aware that this is an absolute mess right now, and in the future we will try and get this to look a little bit nicer, but for now, if we set this to input at the top, that should start to work quite nicely in our favor. Now, we are going to get secondary outputs here, and so what I think we're going to have to do is, first things first, let me make some more chests, because we're going to need one chest for all... Ooh, that's not a chest, that's a nut block. I did not want to make a nut block. We're going to need one chest for the final output, which is going to be right about there, and I'm hoping that's not going to block any wires. The wires seem to go straight through it. So we want to have the left side here being input, so all of the stuff that goes from here will go out through there. We want to make sure it's red, because we only want the top section to go through to here. We want to make sure this left side is blue, so it can receive all the stuff, and then we want the top side here to be orange, and all the rest to be off, so that all of the stuff, once it's finished smelting, will go into this top slot here. We do not want any of those there. I'm not quite sure how they slipped in, but all of our gravel ore should now come out of here, get pumped around into here, and then get sent through and over into this chest. We do want to make sure that that doesn't connect. I don't know if there's a way for me to specifically block that one side. I guess I could probably make some kind of cover if we use forged microblocks, which I'm assuming have been turned off in NEI. But if we make a saw, we could probably cover this up real easily. So for that, we're going to need some cobblestone sticks, some normal sticks, and some flint. Let me again, my chests are getting so full. We're probably going to start working, by the way, next episode. And oh, we got a crescent hammer trophy, nice. We're probably going to start working next episode on a better storage system, because right now, sifting through this chest is a massive pain in the backside. But back on track, let me grab some pieces of cobblestone, and let's make some cobblestone sticks. For those who don't know, you can make cobblestone sticks just as you would make any other kind of stick. I believe we can actually also use stone if we want, and that actually gets us 4 instead of 2, which is the perfect amount. So, if we do something like this, and combine that up with a piece of flint, that's going to get us a basic saw, which we can then use to saw up things like stone into panels like this. And then we can use those panels to actually, usually they're used to cover up like pipes and stuff. I'm going to use these just to make sure that these pipes do not connect to these chests like so. We could do the same thing. I guess we don't need to do the same thing here, but we could use it to cover it up if we wanted to. And now it shouldn't actually interfere with stuff getting pumped directly into there. It should only go into the top. We are going to get this backlog here, and so what we are going to have to do is set up either another chest or some kind of trash can. I'm probably going to go with a trash can for the time being. This is just a chest with some stone and some cobblestone, so that we can void all of the excess materials that come as secondary outputs. They are useful, and we should actually keep them and use them, but now, just for the sake of automation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that, stick some stone along the top, grab some cobblestone from this mess of a contraption that we have over here, and craft ourselves up a trash can. like this, and then we're going to stick that trash can on the back here of this thing. I want to make sure the back of this is set to yellow, put the trash can there, and that's going to avoid any byproducts that are made from pulverizing all of these gravels, or it shouldn't matter that this is connected up here because these are just pumping water out, and the pulverizer and the trash can do not accept water, and so I think this should now be pretty much good to go. This thing currently isn't pumping anything out. That's because it doesn't have anything to pump out. Is that still being pumped into? Possibly. It seems like it might be, but there's only actually so many slots in here for things to be crafted into. So, for example, like the diamonds are not really... It's only going to be every so often everything's kind of backing up, isn't it? That is not particularly great, and we might be a flaw in the system. What we might have to do is get rid of some of the stuff, like make sure the diamonds don't get pumped down here, and instead pump the diamonds and stuff directly out of this chest across into another chest, and then have another transfer node here instead of a hopper to pump stuff down and around into there to kind of just control what goes where, because right now everything's kind of backing up a little bit and not letting anything through, which is causing a bit of an issue. It seems to have eased up a little bit now, but I'm going to keep an eye on it between episodes, see how it goes. For now, it's working somewhat nicely, pumping things around up into here, and getting us automatic ingots so we don't have to faff around with for 30 minutes at a time. And with that, guys, I'm going to end this episode of Feed the Beast Infinity Evolved Skyblock there. If you did enjoy the video, as always, be sure to hit like. Next time, we'll come back. We'll see if this is still working as intended. We'll probably also start on a bit of a better storage solution. But, as I said, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.